My health world, namaste, enlightenment.
Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome to My Health World. Beautiful Greg is joining us today for this very important chat, healing the children. When we talk about healing the children, of course, we're also communing with the inner child within us, the one that has maybe been shut down for not just this lifetime, but for eons of lifetimes. The one who is traumatized, the one who is abused, the one who has been masked, not able to be heard, not able to be seen, not able to express the true depth of their innocence, their playfulness here on this planet, this three-dimensional reality. Of course, there's many chats going on at the moment, which you may have been involved in, and equally you may not have been involved in, and this could be your first insight into what's happening, what's coming to light with the child sex trafficking. It does include, of course, adults as well in sex trafficking. But today we want to focus on the beautiful children, because children, just like animals, are extremely innocent. They're not able to fend for themselves. They're not equipped with the tools as yet to find a way out of the maze. There's a lot of black magic, dark magic that's being orchestrated on our planet at the moment. We really want to be mindful of our language today. We don't want to cast any new spells upon the earth, because we are already caught up in a very dark dream spell where we have given our power away to the elites. We've talked about it in previous podcasts, talking about the Illuminati, the Cabal, these kind of words, to point towards this construct on the earth where we are run by parent corporations, where we are governed to an inch of our life, where we are giving up our wealth, our power, where we are now being herded like sheep and told what to do, when to come out in daylight hours, when to stay at home, what we should be wearing across our mouth. It's really escalating upon us. And we are finding there's also information coming out that's trying to normalize pedophilia. And this causes great sickness amongst those of us who would never harm a fly, let alone harm a child. What Greg and I have been going through in the past couple of weeks through our research has been extremely dark, and we have had to integrate a lot of emotions. So today we really want to give you some step-by-step tools how you can integrate the horror of what you may also have found out, or what you might find out from today's podcast. We want to talk about the fact that we chose this journey of good versus evil from the very highest aspects of our multidimensional self. Again, we've gone through this in previous podcasts, so it's really important that we anchor right now in this moment. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and know that we created this so we can understand the difference to our God ourself, our universal source self that only and forever dwells in love, peace, and joy. We chose to experience the opposite, without the contrast, without the dark, and we use the terms light and dark just more to describe. There's nothing wrong with darkness, and in fact we really all exploded out of the darkness. That's the creative energy had to come from a deep abyss, if you like, a deep void. So there's nothing wrong with darkness, but in this sense we're talking about the darkness, we're talking about the evil that's being played out upon this planet. Let's know that we are co-creators with the universe, that we chose this game, if you like. And no, the game is not fun at times. From a human or third dimensional reality, the game literally can cause you to throw up. And you need to allow yourself time to integrate any of those horrendous feelings that are surging out of you. You may actually need to be physically sick. If you try to skip to just acceptance without doing the inner work, without doing the integration process, you are going to cause yourself even further harm, because you will be faking it. So in order to be authentic and in order to integrate these emotions, first of all, know that you have chosen this at the very highest level of your being. No harm can therefore come to any of us, not in a sustainable and ultimate sense. We are only passing through certain experiences, having a depth of understanding, and we will arise out of this cycle. We're on a paradise or ascension timeline. That is playing out as we speak, coupled with this dark form that's coming to light. Now, that darkness has been there for eons of time, but it's coming to a head because of social media, because we're able to share information in a greater way. It's coming to a head. We're seeing our political leaders, we're seeing Hollywood stars, we're seeing the scourge on the planet come to the surface. And if we look away now, we are doing a disservice, not only to the children who are currently being traumatized and abused and tortured, but we are doing a disservice to our own inner child. You cannot keep yourself locked away, either metaphorically in a tunnel, or you cannot keep these children locked away in a tunnel. You must look, and through the light of your awareness, through the integration process, through visualizing love on the planet every day, you can make a difference. You are not powerless. Please, everyone, understand you are not powerless. What you do through your visualizations will heal the planet. So please get on board this most divine mission.
There's really so much that is coming to light at the moment, and sometimes it can be difficult to accept the information that you are reading. And more importantly, sometimes our intuition tells us that some of the information may not be accurate, or sometimes we think there's no way that that's possible. That's just a conspiracy theory, or that's not true, or how can I check if that's actually? So I think one thing to remember is that in order to really get back to a place of healing at a planetary level, we don't necessarily need to have the details correct. We don't always need to have the exact numbers or how this has been done or why this has been done. The logical mind will want to know. The logical mind will want to know, well, who was the good person? Who was the bad person? You know, was this prime minister in it, or was that chief of police in it, and all of those details. And different rabbit holes will take you to different places and reveal different information. Sometimes conflicting information, which makes you think, well, is all of this a bunch of rubbish? The thing is that at an energetic level, there's no denying what has been going on. And as Carrie-Anne said, it has been going on for a long, long, long time. We know that the pharmaceutical companies, the majority of politicians, we know that the finance world, we know that a lot of our entertainment world, Hollywood stars, for example, but a lot of these people who have seemingly been gifted into these roles of leaders, mentors, the rich, the famous, we can also see that they really quickly fall into patterns of deep self-sabotage. Things like they get exposed as rapists or abusers themselves, or perhaps they fall into the victim template and they get addicted to substances, they lose all of their money, they lose their health, they suicide. So according to everything which we've been taught, if we achieve fame, financial abundance, this large amount of money, success, notoriety, if we become someone who is extremely famous and rich and all of these things, then realistically, there's a bit of a paradox there, because shouldn't those people be the happiest people? Shouldn't those people be the people who are living the most tremendous lives? And it's absolutely not the case. We can see that. There's no questioning that. So by using that methodology, regardless of what you're reading, regardless of what you think is true or what you think is incorrect, regardless of any of the details in these conspiracy theories that conflict each other, it's not about saying, well, is it right or is it wrong? You know, just by your own life, that we're living in a world where money, fame, success, leadership, popularity, those things do not guarantee any type of inner peace or inner freedom. In fact, it seems that the more we head to those places, the more we self-sabotage and the sicker we get. Anyone who has a considerable wealth, we're talking hundreds of millions, maybe even $500 million, $1 billion and plus, it becomes a completely different energetic template. And it's almost impossible. And again, history has proven this. It's not my opinion, but it is almost impossible to not allow that amount of notoriety, that amount of fame, that amount of financial success to infiltrate the ego and to start to control your actions and your behaviors. So if we flip that around, what can we do as our own little selves? We sit here driving our Toyotas and we sit here in our modest 3-bedroom homes and we start thinking, well, how can we take on those people? How could I take on someone who's got hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, or you know, the most popular person in the world, whatever it is, or Hollywood stars. Let's flip that around a little bit. Our paradigm has lied to us, and it's told us that those people, if they've got the most money, they control the earth and they control the power. Absolutely not. It is not the case whatsoever. The only way that they succeed is because we have bought into a false narrative of divide and conquer. If we realize that we outnumber them, if we realize that our energy is much stronger because it's pure and it's set to the energy of the earth and it's set to the energy of the universe, then our thoughts, our meditation, our aura, our energy work, our spiritual work can absolutely overcome anything which they're doing at a deeper level, because the energy of the world does not respect the figures that you have in your bank account. It's got nothing to do with that. Yes, that's energy, but it's also karma. How did they get that money? It does not respect how many movies you've had and how many Oscars you've won. Yes, again, that's an energy exchange, but what did they do to get to that level of success in Hollywood? So don't allow yourself to feel small or to feel powerless simply because you're living what we call a powerless life in our paradigm. Not at all. In fact, what we need to do is flip that around and say, well, we don't have the stress of having this huge empire that we have to run. I don't have the stress of having $500 million that I need to make sure I'm controlling and no one's out there to take my money. We don't have that. In fact, the less we have, the less material things that we have, the more power we truly have, because we don't have the attachment, we don't have the burdens, we don't have it weighing down upon us. So what we can do, and I'm speaking to anyone who is living, again, a little bit more of a simple life, regardless of what you have been told and how you've been brought up to believe that you may or may not be a success or a failure. But what we can do is tune into the spiritual vibration. We can tune in to do the energetic cleansing work. And what we're focusing on today is the cleansing work, which will specifically focus on inner child healing. Many of us think the inner child is just a part of who we are as an adult. So it's almost like we think that here I am, I'm 39 years old, I'm living my life, and a little tiny portion of me is the inner child. Little Greg might live in the heart or live somewhere else, maybe in the kidneys. And I every now and then want to connect with him and go, you did a good job, little mate. That's not the case. In fact, when we say inner child, it's exactly the same as our adulthood and even moving into elderly age. It's an ever-changing, very fluid energy field, which we can actually shift back into. So when I do inner child work, it's not reconnecting with something inside me. It's actually working through me as I am now, and it's really powerful. So the reason that this is perhaps the most profound work that any of us can do at the moment is because of what has been happening for centuries, possibly thousands of years, possibly tens, hundreds of thousands of years on the planet. The persecution of children, the abuse of children, the illegal trade of children. Now, that can also include adults, but we can count them as children as well, because any time an adult has been trafficked, any time an adult has been raped or abused, they have taken that energy again of the victim, of the inner child. So rather than thinking about this how many children, this how many adults, no, I don't do that. I think of anyone who has lost their freedom, anyone who has lost their ability to live their own true life, anyone who has been bought and sold, tortured, abused, raped. They are children of the universe, and that is the reason that we're doing this really important work right now. To be honest, if the alternative narratives that we have been fed, if some of them are not factual, but there is only one child on the planet, this is a little bit hard to believe, but let's just go there. Let's say there's only one child on the planet right now who is being tortured and abused and trafficked, I would still want to do the exact same amount of work. And I think you would too, because not one of us would want to allow one child to be sold on the black market, shipped somewhere, tied up, whatever happens to them. So whether or not you're doing it because you think, you know what, there's probably one child, or because like Carrie-Anne and I, you've looked into the details and you've seen some pretty horrific figures being floating around, millions and millions of children. And we've been lied to, because we've been taught, you know, you look at the side of a milk carton when you were growing up, there'd be a picture of one child. Oh, there was one bad man and he broke in and he took that child and that was it. And case closed. We found the man and now he's in prison. It doesn't work that way. And it never sat well with me, because I thought, where does that motivation come from? As humans, how do we just grow up one day and think I'm going to take someone's child? It doesn't work that way. This is a sophisticated ring. This is an energetic network of, yes, pedophilia, yes, trafficking, yes, abuse. People might be in it more so to make money. People might be in it for sexual gratification of minors, pedophilia we call it. They might be in it for both. They might be in it for power. They might be blackmailed into it. They might be in it because they themselves were abused and they're perpetuating a habitual behavior which they have not confronted or dealt with. Whatever it is, this is a sophisticated network, and it goes beyond what I think many of us can even comprehend. So that's heavy. It brings tears to my eyes talking about it, and it probably makes you feel a bit sick. But the dark energies of the world, let's not use the word dark because there can be beauty in dark, but the evil energies of the world, or the people who are perpetuating these horrific crimes and crimes against the universe, what they count upon is us feeling like we are powerless, and also our guilt. Because I'm sure there's some of you out there who are beautiful, empathetic souls, sympathetic souls, who feel guilty because they weren't abused. Or you might feel guilty because you have such a good life. Or you might feel so sad for those children that you just want to lie in bed and cry, and that's all you can do, and you're powerless and the world's an awful place. That's what they count upon, because that actually puts us in a place where our hands are tied behind our back, and we're back in our inner child being abused, aren't we? So what we need to do, it's not denial. It's not about running around outside laughing and doing cartwheels saying, you know, oh, well, nothing's going on. But we have to integrate. So that means if we feel sick, if we feel sad, if we feel upset, we use our healing tools: asana, meditation, acupuncture, massage, crystals, Reiki, chanting, walking, playing with dogs, playing with children, any type of spiritual tool that you can do which transmutes this emotion rather than suppresses it. Because if you're wallowing in it and you allow it to suppress, that's not integrating. And Carrie and I talk about integration a lot at the moment. We talk about upgrading and integration. I'm sure some of you are thinking, how do I integrate? How do I integrate? Integration is about allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to sleep, allowing yourself to cry, and doing the spiritual work. Now, for sometimes Karen and I integrate for an hour after we've read something. Sometimes it's 3 to 4 days. Occasionally it can be maybe 2 weeks, even up to a month. But what that means is I'll clear the social schedule. I might reduce my hours at work. Yes, sometimes that means that I have to change perhaps some of the things that are happening in my life. But if I need to go into those emotions, integrate them, do my practice, meditate, practice yin, restorative, cry, whatever I need to do, what you'll notice is that the emotions, they don't disappear, but they start to transmute, transform. They start to turn into more powerful emotions where you feel not happy, but you feel inspired, you feel energized, and you start to think, all right, I need to do something with this. I need to go out and talk to people. I need to get this off my chest. I need to get back to my spiritual work. I need to meditate. And you know then that instead of suppressing the emotion and giving into that dark force or that evil force that's controlling you, you've said, okay, I've taken it, I've integrated it, and now I'm back in my place of power, because there are so many people on the planet who are here for the right reasons. And if we all do that, which I believe we are at the moment, if we continue to do that, this will not continue. It is 2020. This is the first year in the history of Earth, especially in the modern history of Earth, that we have hit a year in the timeline of 2020, perfect vision. There is a reason that when you go to the optometrist, they always say, do you have 2020 vision, 2020 vision? Of course, this is the year of 2020. This is about waking up, opening your eyes, looking at what's going on and saying, right, it's time to take the red pill. It's time to get up and do something and take action, because even if you don't believe in the huge numbers of child trafficking that's happening at the moment, even if you think it's only one, would you allow that one child to continue to be trafficked? And not only that, whose child is that? Is that you in your next life? Was that you in your last life? Is it your nephew? Is it your son? Was it your mother? We are a collective consciousness. At My Health, we know that there is a collective consciousness and that we are all one. Plus, even those who are evil, even those who are perpetrating and committing these absolutely horrendous acts, even those souls deserve to be released from that painful, suffering, habitual patterning. That does not mean that I necessarily forgive them. That does not mean that I excuse their behavior. But if we can allow them as well to pull themselves out of that place of wanting to do these acts, then that's really where we're going to get to some pretty incredible healing, because there is no way that that is part of human life. We were not put on the planet to do these things. This is something which, and there's different, look, we'll talk about this in future podcasts about, you know, what kind of real viruses have infiltrated humans. Not a pandemic, not a cold, but what the real virus is that's infiltrated humans, because the species, humankind, there's a reason we're called humankind, because we were not put on the planet to torture children and rape children and abuse children. That's not in human nature. There is a reason that's going on. We'll get into that in future podcasts. But for now, let's wake up, let's open our eyes, let's open our hearts, and let's start to do the spiritual work, because enough is enough. And quite frankly, mainstream media has a lot to answer for at the moment. So we really need to be aware that the more someone is telling us how shocking it is that, you know, 3 people died yesterday in Victoria, you know, 10 people died in Florida. Oh, how shocking that is. Yes, that's shocking. But why don't we turn to this amount of deaths that's been happening for years and years and years? There is nothing in the mainstream media about that. And if it was so easy to prove that it was wrong, how come they don't talk about it? How come they don't say, yep, absolutely right? So there's so much more to this. And I think we're only really just starting to see how far this, I would call it a true pandemic, how far this pandemic of torturing, trafficking, abuse really goes down into the rabbit hole, which is really being dug up now. Carrie-Anne and I are on a mission, and I do believe that Carrie-Anne and I we're both old souls, we're both Scorpios, and we have really been blessed with a sense of, I think Carrie-Anne would agree when I say spiritual strength. So if it is difficult for you to go down the rabbit holes yourself, if you don't know where to look, if you don't know where to turn, we're here to help you. We're happy to keep doing this podcast. And if it serves you to stick with us, to keep listening to our content, we promise to deliver as much of the truth as we can. You won't often hear us talking about specifics, because we're not really here to give you the exact numbers, the exact names, all of that kind of more frontal lobe logical thought. We're not really here for that. You can find that on your own, from your own methods. We're here to give you the translation of the energy that's at play, plus provide you with tools to help integrate and ultimately upgrade.
I think we do need to talk about forgiving these evil entities that are on the planet. Greg, you mentioned not forgiving them, so I'm going to even challenge you on that, because they are also us. But I completely understand what you're saying from a third
we just have to be
reality.
we just have to be careful about how we say it, don't we?
It's a very interesting concept. But so let's explore that a little bit further, because if we don't forgive them, and this is why I say we can't cast another spell. If we cast another spell, that they are separate from us, and they are the ones that we must, as you said, divide and conquer. So we could be reprogramming the same program, divide and conquer. They are wrong, we are right. Let's take their heads off. And of course, on a physical level, there's nothing wrong with justice, and justice must prevail. We must energetically take their heads off. We must put them through the justice system. There's many reports now that these prolific pedophiles are being executed in the United States. Now, I'm sure no one has a problem with that at all. And we would say, yes, that needs to happen. However, from this, and this is what we do at My Health, we go to that very highest template of our divinity, and we look at ourselves, as you said, Greg, as that one source energy. So how can we actually forgive something that is so vile and so grotesque, that is so heart-wrenching that it is difficult to even look closer? How can we forgive even that? And this is what we talk about with the daily inner work that we must do through our meditation. Where can we identify within ourselves that we have stolen someone's power, where we have shut someone's voice
Mm.
down, where we have wanted to run our own agenda, control the situation, even if we thought that that measure of control was for the highest good for our family, let's say, or for our business, let's say. Where have we gone down a grey or a black path? And where have we participated in a past life? If you can't identify in this life that you've gone down a track that it's not serving the light, where have you in a past life? Could you have been one of these perpetrators in a previous incarnation? And the truth is, when you look at fourth dimensional reality, so we're in the third dimensional reality, transitioning into fifth dimensional reality, again, spoken about this in previous podcasts, but the fourth dimension is that kind of interweaving, I guess, between the fifth and the third. And when you transition back to the fourth dimension in a spiritual state, in a formless state, you will choose another incarnation, and you may choose an incarnation that has the polar opposite experience of what you just experienced. So if you were the, and I'll say it in quotes, the victim in one lifetime, in the next lifetime, you may choose to be the perpetrator, which means you may have been one of these people on the planet that was forcing their will, abusing, torturing. Now, everyone wants to know why. Why would I choose such utter darkness? It's such a common question. When you think about the spectrum of dark and light, there's that middle point. Once you've tipped into that, what we'll say, 51% service to others template, you are all about love. You're all about giving. You're all about only taking as much as you need. But it's very easy when you're on that middle section to trip into the spectrum leading to the dark. And that has as much kickback of power as does the light. So this is what we talk about: dark magic, black magic, the occult. These are things that you may need to go and research. So when you start deriving your power, not from the light, not from the universal sustainable energy, which only comes from within, when you start deriving your power from others, it is addictive. And it's an insatiable need that you have to get more and more. And so the perversion goes along that spectrum until it reaches what we'll call the Luciferian construct. It reaches that aspect where you literally, and we have talked, we've read about the bloodsuckers, we've read about the blood drinkers, you literally want the life pulse of another human. And what is the life pulse of another human? It is their blood. Now, this is where we get into areas where you may have to remove yourself and go and be physically ill. But if we understand it from an energetic perspective to begin with, it does help to see how once that energy from higher levels takes form, manifests into physical form, how that looks in terms of the way it plays out in the physical third dimensional template. And that's how it plays out. So these blood drinkers are also wanting to invert the Kundalini energy, the potential spiritual energy that's in all beings. These people want to take that energy for themselves because it empowers them, it feeds them, they are addicted to it. The same as you can be addicted to people in your life, foods that you eat, alcohol, drugs. It's that same desperate need. It's like heroin times 1,000 or more. So this is what happens, and they are caught in their own destructive cycle. So this is my best way, and Greg and I, you and I have talked about this a lot. This is our best way to attempt, at least with words, to explain something that we know on an energetic level, how this is possible on this earth plane, how it is that people are wanting to feed off the life force energy of other sentient beings. This is when we talk about the elite, the cabal, the Illuminati. They have been doing this for thousands of years. It is why they want to not just siphon off our monetary wealth. Now with, and Greg, you referred to it as well, what's happening, they're trying to scare us literally about breathing air. Why
Mm.
are we scared of breathing air? That's prana.
Mm.
In yoga, we learn that is prana. That is our life force energy. But no, they are now saying you can't even breathe air. You must be scared of breathing air. Mask yourself like a ridiculous clown. Mask yourself. And not only that, let's breed it into people who are good souls. Let's breed it into them to snitch on their fellow brothers and sisters. Let's
Oh, yeah.
use them as the puppets in the game. Let's make the businesses
Mm.
the ones who are policing each other. So they've got us working for them in every which way that they possibly can. Like our life force is reduced. If you're listening to this, you can't see my hand, but just watching us on YouTube, I'm like showing you a minuscule amount. Well, everyone, take your life force back, take it back, declare it now, use the power of your throat chakra to announce it every day. And do say it out loud. Don't just say it in your mind. Do say it out loud. I now take my power back. I am a sovereign being. You must announce it time and time and time again. Empower yourself, particularly when you're feeling the doom, the fear, the atrocities that are being played out. As we're talking about, integrate. You must give yourself space and time to integrate, to heal, to grieve, to cry, to scream, and then take your power back. And every day go out into nature, or find a way, as Greg mentioned, crystals. He mentioned a whole list. Write it down. Go back, listen to him, write it down what he said. Use these tools every single day to amplify the love, the joy, the peace, the divinity within you, and then send it out, broadcast it out for all the world to benefit from. Send it into the deepest tunnels of the earth, where we are now finding out children who have never seen the light of day, who are caught in a reincarnational cycle of abuse. And this is what these dark lords have worked out with their black magic. They're not the only ones that understand energy. They know how to keep these souls in a reincarnational cycle of abuse. There goes my dog. He's not happy about it. And they are succeeding unless we stand up and reclaim our power, reclaim your sovereign life force right now, today. Do not waste another moment.
You know, we have really been tricked and sucked into, there he is. Hi, Coconut. I love him. Dogs are just the best. They know exactly when to speak up. And actually, before we started recording today's podcast, Carrie Ann and I were chatting a bit about throat chakra and how important it is to speak up. And, you know, it's funny because so many of us tell our dogs, stop barking, shut up. And you think they're doing exactly what their heart tells them to do. They're saying, no, this is my space. Dogs, we could really learn a lot from dogs. We know the difference between, I've got two myself, and I know the difference between a bit of a cheeky bark when they're just trying to get attention, or when they're saying, this is my space. You've crossed over my boundary. I don't want you in my house today. I don't want you walking past. Don't come near me. They're fantastic because they're so in touch with their throat chakra, but we've really been trained to swallow our thoughts, haven't we? We've been trained to say, oh, well, that's what I was told. That's what my doctor said. That's what my mum said. That's what the news said. And I better just swallow it, even if it's a difficult pill to swallow. Going back to the medical world, it's challenging because, of course, we need doctors. They're there to help us. When I grew up in the 1980s in Brisbane, we had a beautiful GP who was a friend of the family, and she worked out of her house, and you would go there mainly so that she checked everything was okay, and that was about it. You get a lollipop and leave. These days, it's very different. It's not always the doctor's fault, because a lot of the time, patients will go to a doctor's surgery and they won't leave unless they have a prescription. They need their pill. They want their magic pill. And it's a paradigm which has both sides. I can see the side of medicine and I can see the side of the patient, because both have co-contributed to this scenario now where it is amplifying the potential damaging effects of pharmaceuticals. And not only that, but we've fallen into the trap of basically taking every single thing that we hear as the truth. However, we know that the doctors can get it wrong. And not only that, but if we step out of our fight or flight, and if we actually really start to pay attention to what we're being told during this pandemic at the moment, the pandemic of COVID, all you have to do is look at it from a common sense perspective. That's all you have to do. We're not asking you to say, never wear a mask, or stop washing your hands, or go sit on the train with 45 people who are coughing and sneezing. We're not suggesting that you don't take the medical advice that your intuition tells you is right for you. But we are simply saying, if nothing else, look at it from a common sense perspective. What do you know, as proven by the people around you, the books that you've read, your life growing up? When does your immune system get stronger? When do you feel the best? When do you feel the most energized? I've built basically my entire business here at an acupuncture clinic off the fact that stress alone will stop a woman's menstrual cycle. It will affect fertility rates. It will cause things like migraine and muscular aches and pains. It leads to insomnia, so therefore lack of cellular healing, and predominantly drops the immune system down. When your body is stressed, immune goes down. If you really buy into the fear, your immune system will be compromised. What about masks? What exactly is happening to my immune system when I do this? Now, we're not talking about surgical masks here. We're not talking about masks which someone would wear when they're studying virology, when they're studying medicine, when they're working in an operating room in a surgical theater. Because if it was a mask designed to deal with a deadly virus, it would be a very different type of mask. And not only that, when it was removed, it would have to go in a hazard bin. You would have to be wearing gloves. There would be so much with it. But we're seeing masks that are literally made out of, cloth with a label on it that are strung up about. It does absolutely nothing except lower your oxygenation levels in your body. And there is so much research on that. But of course, we're not being told to look for ourselves. So go for a look, jump on Google Scholar, because I did a couple of days ago, and there's a lot of research. In fact, surgeons are advised to wear masks for a limited amount of time because it reduces their concentration. So they aren't going to walk around a hospital wearing a mask, and hospitals are full of germs. We need prana. We need oxygen. Our cells' immunity relies upon taking huge, big, deep breaths, getting outside, getting vitamin D, getting sunshine, exercise. What else makes us feel good? Where do we get our happy hormones from? Oxytocin. We get it from connection. How good does it feel just to hug your best friends and say hi and connect with other people? Everything which is being fed to us at the moment is actually the opposite of what we have been taught scientifically benefits our immune system. We're being told to stay away from people. I can go to a restaurant right now just down the street, and there'll be tables. I saw it yesterday as I walked past with this half plastic screen in between the tables. If someone has a deadly virus, which is so contagious and so deadly to the human race that it's basically shut down the global economy, do you think that a 2-foot plastic screen is going to stop the virus trends? There is no, and I'm not an expert in science, but I've done my share of education. There is absolutely no scientific evidence for that. In fact, it's basically pointless. If this was that deadly, we would be stuck inside 24/7. Not only that, but the death rates would be through the roof. And it wouldn't just be killing those that are sick. And yes, I know we're being told that someone's 30 and someone's 40. Absolute BS. We're seeing signs and symptoms which aren't even as severe as influenza. This is a coronavirus. This is a cold virus that they're talking about. Most people in the scientific world, and I've talked to doctors, I've talked to surgeons, I've talked to dentists, I've talked to a lot of different people about this. Most people have already accepted that it's already mutated. We've already started to build a herd immunity to it. And not only that, but this has most likely happened with almost all of the coronaviruses that are in existence and have been in existence in humanity for years and years and years. They've all been introduced at some stage. There's already been deaths from other coronaviruses and illnesses like this, but we just haven't ever been scared, controlled, manipulated as much as we have this year. So I'll leave that with you, because I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong and who's doing it and why they're doing it. But yes, I find it very coincidental that it's 2020. I find it very coincidental that on the 31st of January this year, Donald Trump signed an executive order, a presidential order, stating that one of his main aims this year was to put an end to human trafficking and child sex trade. You can check that yourself. It is on the White House's website, an executive order signed by Donald Trump, the 31st of January 2020. What else is happening this year? It's a presidential election. Are all these things a giant coincidence that all of a sudden a common cold, which is what a coronavirus is, now, yes, we're being told that it's deadly. any coronavirus, not just COVID-19, any virus is deadly if you have a compromised immune system, if you were elderly, if you recently had pneumonia or bronchial infection, or if you're on immune suppressants for HIV, if you're a donor of a lung transplant and you're on a suppressants for that, any virus can be deadly. And that's why we've seen experts in the medical field who are coming out saying, if you are immunocompromised, if you are taking these drugs, if you are really worried, then you stay home. That is exactly right. That's the medical advice that we've had for eons of time. But why is it that in 2020, with a virus that has such a low death rate, such a low rate of transmission, such low, and by rate of transmission, I don't mean that it's not highly contagious, but it absolutely is nowhere near as contagious as some of the serious illnesses out there, things like Ebola. We need to be worried about that.
Even if you do contract it, you're able
even if you do contract
overcome it. Vitamin C, sunshine is probably your best bet. It's a flu.
Depending on where you live, I don't know what's happening in other countries, but I can tell you right now that since the start of the year here in Australia, when this has been told to us that this is the scariest thing that's ever happened in humanity, right? This is worse than the Spanish flu and the bubonic plague. This is the worst thing ever. We have not had one tiny bit of information fed to us that would help us in terms of our immune system. The government
it's been censored, which says it all, really.
But the government has been real quick to give us an app that tracks us and tells us where we're going. But there's no app that says, if you're stuck at home, here's your mindfulness, here's what you should be eating. This is what the dietitians recommend to boost your immune system. Make sure you're drinking 2 liters of water, flushing out toxins so you're not getting any digestive problems where the microbiome is that actually fights bacteria. This is what you should be doing for your mental health. If you're not sleeping, this is what we recommend. If you're not going outside because you're stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks, you're losing vitamin D. That's why we're supplementing vitamin D supplements at the moment. This is what, no, not one piece of advertising, propaganda, media, or information has had anything to do with boosting your immune system. In fact, the only things that we're being told to do this year seems to be in dire contradiction to actual health measures. So
people don't believe that the government is not there to help them. And those people who had their hand out for, and please forgive me if you're offended by this comment, but for those that had their hand out for any restructure money that came through once the businesses were shut down and jobs, had to be put on hold. There's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you need to survive, you need to eat. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But don't then get trapped into thinking that the government wants to help you. They may want to keep you dependent on the state. Exactly. They may want to keep you dependent on the state so they can control you. If you understand what their final agenda is, if you look at the final agenda, you can see the rollout. Now, Greg, I think we really need to talk about the levels of narcissism that are on the planet. And I'm talking about you, me, everyone, having a crack at us all today. We're all in the same boat, because really what people are frightened of is my income, my mother, my father might die, my kids. I need to protect what's mine. We are all coming from a place of separation. The narcissism is rife on the planet. Now, who do we hold responsible for that? Guess what? I'm pointing the finger to myself, and you need to point the finger to yourself, anyone who's listening or watching this. If you continue along this pathway, you are going to continue to feed into this system that the elite has rolled out, that we have all gobbled up. I've had the biggest awakening. I thought I was a fairly awake soul. I've been training people in healing, meditation, yoga, inner child development, every which way you can bake it or shake it in terms of healing. I have been doing this in my business for 22 years. I thought I was fairly awake. And then I went, boom. No, Carrie, no. You are still feeding a system. You are still trying to get ahead in your business. You are still focused on wealth creation. I mean, I was all about the manifestation in terms of the wealth creation. Well, you know what? I don't care, because I'm abundant. There will always be enough for what I need. I will continue to be abundant. Just because I'm now saying I'm not focused on that does not mean that my business won't continue to make even more money. But how much money do I need? I've got more than enough. I'm a white Western chick. I've got more than enough, let me assure you. So this is now about not just what I can give back in terms of the trainings that we do, the healing sessions that we do. This is about switching my whole energy field to what is important. And again, because of the theme for today, we're cycling back to relinquishing our adherence to the control measures, to looking after the innocent within ourselves, the traumatized within ourselves, the abused within ourselves, the tortured within ourselves, because we are the microcosm to the macrocosm. When we dive within, when we do the work, and I've been doing this work anyway, but I'm going next level. I'm next level, baby. I am all the way in, because what I care about is healing that collective consciousness of abuse, so that
breaking
we
the
may
cycle.
all rise. You talk about doctors. I'm going to reframe what happened to me when I was 8 years of age, when a doctor abused me, sexually abused me. I'm going to reframe that in this moment. I'm going to take my power back, because without that doctor doing that to me, I wouldn't have the depth of understanding. And, maybe I would have trusted doctors, but from that moment on, I did not trust doctors. I did not trust anyone with any power to have authority over me, to tell me how to live my life. It hurtled me headlong into a path of natural healing, of true sovereignty within myself. And if anyone has been through, and I know it's 1 in 3 women at least, 1 in 3 men at least, and the numbers could be more. So I know that I'm speaking to many of you when I say you too have been sexually abused, that you are not a victim. You are not a victim. You chose it on a very high level of your consciousness. You chose to, quote unquote, be a lamb to the slaughter when you came into this third dimensional reality. And it's okay. Grieve, cry, punch the wall, stomp the ground, whatever you need to do to move that energy, and then reclaim your power, because you chose it.
Integrate.
For your depth of understanding, integrate. All these things we keep coming back to, but no one has any power over you. Greg said it before, you are not powerless. You are powerful, more than you could ever possibly even imagine yourself to be. You are God, goddess incarnate. You are a co-creator with all the beautiful beings on this planet. Even the bloodsuckers, they too will at some point choose the light, because there's only so far that they can go before they self-destruct. And that's what's happening right now on the planet. There is a destruction process going on.
I think really what you said, Carrie-Anne, about our grief, we've bought into, and we've chatted about this, I think, in previous podcasts, and we talk about it even in our meditations and classes on My Health TV. But we've really bought into, particularly in, let's just say, the modern Western world, but we've bought into, even more so, it's happening worldwide at the moment, this, we could say narcissistic, but it's a victim mentality of what happens when someone that we love dies, So we've bought into how much that is supposedly ruining our life, how sad it is that your child died, mum died, auntie died. I get that. I have been through that, and I can feel that and integrate that. But that sadness should be in, let's just say, relative perspective, or it should be in ratio with what's happening at a global level, because it would be selfish of us to try to hold on to someone who was elderly, sick, immunocompromised, unwell, hold on to them because, and the same thing happens with animals, of course. It's great to use dogs as an example, because with dogs, and it's probably the same with cats, I've always been a bit more of a dog person in my own house, but it's probably the same with cats, of course. We have the choice with dogs and cats when they get too old, too sick, or if they need to have chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery that's $10,000, $20,000, that can happen. we can then make the choice for them that we're going to help their soul to exit. And yes, that's sad, but we integrate that. We know we did the right thing. Not so with humans, particularly in countries which don't allow euthanasia, like Australia. That person, if they leave, we're then stuck with this absolute grief. It's ruined our life. And at the moment, I truly believe that that's where a lot of our good intentions are being lost, because we're saying, look, I don't really want to wear a mask, but I'm going to do it because, you know, okay, I'll take this as an example. What about if I had a wedding planned, or if I had a birthday party planned? And I have already heard a few patients in my clinic who have said this to me, even recently: birthday parties, child's birthday parties, weddings, 60th birthdays. And they've said, you know what, I've ended up cancelling it because I would feel so guilty if I was the one person that introduced that to this and this and this. That's not the way to look at it whatsoever. What, if anything, we should be guilty about is turning a blind eye to the millions and millions and millions of children who are being trafficked or abused. I don't think it's about saying, okay, well, I'm going to get vaccinated because I just want to make sure I don't give it to some. It's not about that. We've really got to stop looking at death as something which only we worry about when it happens to my mum, my child, my dog. That's sad, and we can integrate that. But we are a global society now. We can't sit there and ignore the basic rules of the universe. When this year alone, even if we're not talking about child trafficking anymore, but this year alone, an estimated, this is a big number, 5 million. Now, we are in July at the moment, so depending on when you're listening to this podcast, from July 2020, an estimated 5 million humans, children, have died of hunger already. 5 million. Now, if we're talking about people who have $500 million, maybe a couple of billion, there's people in the world who have more than that, close to $1 trillion, and they are investing so much money in this miraculous vaccine, which is going to save us from this horrendous coronavirus. That's fantastic, is it? Why don't they use some of that money to stop the 5 million people? Look, these are all facts and figures that you can dispute, and you can say, well, Greg, it doesn't say that, or Greg this, or Greg that. I'm not trying to tell you exactly what's going on and to have this. It's not an argument. What I'm trying to do is to get you to wake up and to get you to say, hang on, if right now, let's take me, for example, living in Australia, if they cared about my health so much that they were willing to say, stay inside, wear a mask, vaccinate because of this virus, which is killing. I think in Australia, we're up to 123 people, right? 123 people. Then why is it that I could take my $700 check that the government gives me this week, walk into a tobacco shop and buy 10 packets of smokes, buy a couple of cartons of beer, and sit down tonight and smoke every single cigarette, when allegedly heart disease is the #1 killer in Australia? But they're not stopping smokes, are they? They're not stopping cigarettes.
No, and we're not snitching on those people who are eating their Maccas and drinking their grog and sitting in front of the tell-lie vision. I mean, really, if we all wanted to, we could run around saying, don't do it, you're going to kill yourself, because that is slow suicide. The way many people are living, that is slow suicide.
And it's not even slow, it's quick. But
each to their own. And again, it talks about the narcissism, Greg. You know, it talks about the narcissism, that people are more interested in listening to the media and how we can protect just our own, and bugger the people that are starving to death, and bugger these kids that are being abused. These are our children. What is wrong with everyone? Wake up already. What is wrong with everyone? These are our children. They are our future. And we're worried about, someone died the other day of this beautiful old soul. She was 100. She died of COVID, reportedly. I'll believe it's true, but she was 100. Oh, you know, and it got listed in one of the COVID statistics in Victoria. That's okay, because she transitioned into a beautiful place. She was tired. She was ready. And right now, that soul's probably helping everyone else to wake up on the planet, saying, it's okay, guys. Death's not that
And yet
bad. In
we've
fact,
got,
it's
and yet we've
absolutely
got
beautiful.
5
But we're
billion
turning
people
a
who have
blind
died of
eye to the,
hunger.
yeah, these are our
It's
children.
ludicrous. So what we're saying is, if you're sitting there going, okay, I've got it. I didn't even know that there was this child thing going on. I don't even know that many people died of hunger. All right, I've got to integrate. You're sitting there feeling a bit overwhelmed. That's okay. Here's one thing that we want to leave you with, because we'll start to wrap it up. But one thing that we want to leave you with is question where you're getting your own beliefs from. Some of us get our beliefs from a mum and dad. Some of us get it from religion. If we grew up in a religious paradigm, that's fine. Some of us get it from yoga. Some of us get it from our friends. You know, you typically become very, very attuned to beliefs of the 5 people that you hang around with most. We know that. That's why I'm pretty careful about who I've got in my inner circle. And of course, social media, MSM, we call it, mainstream media these days, messaging that comes through, subliminal messaging that comes through. We know now that you can go for a coffee with a friend and start talking about, you know, a water jug, and next minute on Instagram there'll be an ad for a water jug. We know that. That's not new news. It's not a conspiracy. We know that they use microphones in our phones to listen to us, and they target ads. Cool, that's all fine. We know that. What I'm asking you to do now is to look at your actions and your behaviors and really start to identify. If you need to, write them down. Write down your rituals. Write down what you're thinking. Journal. Really start to identify which of these are based on common sense, which of these are based on your intuition, which of these are based on what you believe your higher self deserves, aka getting outside, running around with friends, going out to dinners, traveling, exploring, reading, and which of these are based on a fear propaganda which has been fed to you to divide and conquer. So I'm not telling you which is right and which is wrong, because if you, in yourself this year, if you truly believe down to your deepest selves that it is the right thing for you to do, to wear a mask, to stay inside, to over sanitize yourself with products that kill all the good bacteria, to live off tinned food, you know, stop talking to anyone else, social distance, wait for the vaccine, down with Trump, I trust the news, what is the news telling me? If you honestly think that is the way that you have to live your life this year, we send you love. We understand where you're coming from, and that's your path, and that's okay. But for those of you who are saying, you know what, even a small little part of the back of my mind, or deep in my gut, or in my heart, or something's telling me that there's a bigger picture here that I'm not seeing, follow your intuition, open your eyes, because this is a big rabbit hole. There is so many layers to it. It's not about just going, oh, I didn't realize that person didn't suicide, or I didn't realize that the Prime Minister was involved with that, or I didn't realize that taxes weren't actually legal. You know, this goes pretty far. And each time there's another layer of onion that you've peeled off, you're going to cry a little bit more. That's what happens when I cook as well. So each time you find a little bit more, you're going to have to integrate and then get ready for the next level. But we'll be here with you every step of the way. We are committed to this podcast. This is not heavy work for us. This is not something that we force ourselves to do and we have to drag ourselves out of bed. There might be a week or two where we don't do a new episode because we're integrating. There might be some weeks where we do an episode every single day. So I share with you that Carrie-Anne and I are very good with our energy. We're very good with our boundaries, and we are here to help you. We are here to serve you from a place of serving humanity and serving ourselves. So this isn't something which we're doing that's going to tax on ourselves. We believe that by sharing information from our heart to your heart, that we will assist you to wake up, that we will assist you. And we really want you on our spiritual team too. We want you as our spiritual friends, as our spiritual warriors, as we hold on to, you know, Excalibur's sword and we say, we're ready to fight. We're ready to fight a peaceful fight. We're ready to fight a fight of love. We're ready to lay the sword down and say, all right, we're here. This is exactly what's going on. Wake up, world. Join us, because it's our health. It's my health that I'm worried about. It's your health. And it's the health of these beautiful, innocent children, these souls which have carnated, these souls which have been physically tortured, physically abused, physically trafficked. I don't need to know the exact details. Yes, I've seen names. Yes, I've seen videos, photos. I've heard audio clips. There's so much proof out there, which it's very hard to see because it's being censored on Facebook, censored on Instagram, censored on Twitter. It soon will be censored by email. So at a high level, we're really being censored about what we can share and what we can talk about. It'll probably get to the stage where even in a podcast situation like this, that we're going to have to start using quote code words. So we might actually have to start using words for things like virus and pandemic and children and pedophile and things like that. If we have to, that's okay. But right now, we know that this is going on. It's not about saying, is that a conspiracy anymore? Absolutely not. We don't need to know the details. You can look into this as far as your heart wants to. For some of you, it won't be comfortable. It will be sickening. And so take it at your own pace. But if you're on the planet this year, if you're alive in 2020, we believe it's part of your spiritual journey and your spiritual work to get 2020 vision, to wake up, to take your power back, and to start saving this habitual cycle of souls that are being incarnated again and again. It could be you, it could be your mum, it could be my best friend, or it might be someone living on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter who it is, but no human deserves to come into this world and be trafficked, sold, tortured, abused. Enough is enough. That's not why we're here.
We are one.
We are one, and we've had enough.
We must support each other. And I would implore anyone, I would implore anyone who's fearful currently of shit. I would implore you again to look deep within your heart to know that that is an excuse. Fear of ridicule versus what this awakening process can do for the saviour of the innocent, for the saviour of our children, does not compare. You must do what you know to be right. You must do what you know to be right. Even if you lose friends, even if your voice shakes when you speak these truths, let me say it again. You must do what you know to be right. And I have to say, I'm disappointed by many people in my circles who are just going along business as usual, who are not sharing these things. And I know that they know about it. Speak up, guys. Greg shared a meme the other day. You've got a throat chakra. Effing use it. Like you were given God gave you a throat chakra for a reason. If you are not speaking, guess what? You are crippling not only yourself, you are crippling those poor innocent children. You are crippling our beautiful Gaia, our beautiful planet, our mother. Please, please, everyone, stand up now.
And the thing is, what's the reason? Do you think you might lose your job? Do you think you might lose followers on Instagram? Do you think your parents might stop talking to you? Well, guess what? It's not about you. Step out of that space of arrogance and step out of that space of it's all about me and I'm so worried about this and I'm so worried about that. We get it. Pick up the phone and call Carrie Ann or I if you need a friend. We'll answer the phone and tell you that you're not crazy, and we'll tell you it's not a conspiracy, and we'll have a good old chat to you. Pop a comment on the podcast here on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll reply to you. There is a new friend out there for you. So when you start to speak your truth, you will attract other truth seekers, light workers, star seeds who are on your vibration. But don't swallow the anger, because it will suppress and manifest. You know, that's what abusers rely upon. Rapists rely on the fact, particularly of women and children, that they will not speak up because they feel guilty, they feel dirty, they feel ashamed. That is how abusers get away with what they do, because they know, they say, if you tell anyone, I'll kill you. If you tell anyone, I'll tell them they're lying. I have the power. I have control. It disgusts me. And that's actually what's happening at a deeper global energetic level at the moment, because people are scared to speak up. Now, we've already seen what happened with the Me Too movement. Now it's time to say, it's all of us. It's not just women. It's not just children. There are men who've been taken advantage of as well, but this affects all of us at a human level. We've had enough. Our souls are tired. We deserve to come here, run around in the grass, do what we love to do, dance, sing, chant.
5D Earth.
To come here and have a 5D experience, but that starts now. Thank you so much for sticking with us, guys. I know this was probably possibly a heavy topic for some of you. This might be completely out of left field. You might be sitting there with your mask on at home and taking it off going, holy crap, I had no idea. I thought that this virus was really serious, and I thought that if I stepped outside I was going to catch it and I was going to kill someone. That's okay. I fell into the same trap at the start of the year. I was worried about seeing my parents, and I was worried about people coming over to my house, and I thought this is the deadliest thing that's ever hit us. So we've all been there. We've all been sucked in by MSM. We've all been sucked in by the cabal. We've all been sucked into thinking that this is the scariest thing that's ever happened. Now, you might know someone who's had it. I know someone that's been diagnosed with coronavirus. Was the test accurate? I don't know. Was it a different coronavirus? I don't know. But I know a couple of people who allegedly have had it. They've gotten through it. Yes, they had physical symptoms like you would with influenza, like you would with a chest infection, like you would with pneumonia. I've had pneumonia. It nearly killed me. It's pretty horrendous as well. But is this enough to shut down the global society, to shut down how the world works, to suppress us, to stop us going outside, stop us hugging our loved ones, stop us breathing? Is that enough? I'll leave that up to you, because I know my answer, and absolutely not. I take my power back. I urge you to take your power back as well. Enough is enough. Let's get outside. Let's take some deep breaths. Let's remember what's important. Let's get back on track as a society, and let's stand up for these beautiful children. Don't be scared to share it. Don't be scared to talk about it. Let's open up our voices and really start to sing the truth of the matter, the truth of 2020. Perfect vision. We can see you. We know what you're doing. We won't be silenced. We won't shut up. We will speak for those who don't have a voice. It is our time to speak up. We will not be controlled. We are sovereign beings. Hallelujah. Namaste.
Hallelujah. Namaste.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We'll be back soon. Sending you all love from us to you. Namaste.
Namaste.